Jesus said, "Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it?" We usually hear this parable as a metaphor about God's extravagant grace for people. But what if Jesus' parable is really about sheep? What if this is about God's infinite grace toward all creation? Animals, plants, rocks, the vast expanse of interstellar space, galaxies, suns, and this fragile earth, our island home. You've heard that phrase. And people. This month at Trinity Cathedral, we are celebrating the creation, all of it. We are pausing to reflect this month on the splendor of creation and our own place and responsibility in it. Our awe of creation is as old as humankind itself, as ancient as those who first looked up at the stars wondering where they came from and where we come from. The parable is about people, all people. But to fully get what Jesus is driving at in the parable, it might be helpful to set the scene. Imagine an autumn evening long ago in the holy city of Jerusalem. It's still hot this time of year in Jerusalem. Not many people venture outside until the sun is low in the sky and the cool Mediterranean breeze from the northwest begins to blow across the rooftops. A few people begin to gather upstairs in a house in the center of Jerusalem. They find themselves in a big open room next to a wide veranda with a spectacular view of the Jerusalem skyline. All the windows are large and open, letting the cool air come in. Jesus and his followers sit on the floor on rugs and pillows, sharing a meal of bread, cheese, and olives, and a little wine mixed with water. Tonight, someone brings a few cucumbers and dried fruit. Someone else, just arrived from the north, brings salted fish from their home region of Galilee. Sounds of delight from the Galileans in the room fill the room. Jesus blesses all of this bounty as he has done many times before. And he tells everyone that come what may, he will always, always be with them whenever they share a meal like this. This holy man, Jesus from the north, fascinates the people of Jerusalem. They've never seen anyone like him. And every morning they find him teaching on the steps of the temple. In the afternoon, in the hot, blazing sun, he goes to the nearby pools to find the sick and the lame. They lay on the ground hoping someone will help them into the cool waters. He quietly speaks to each one of them, touches their foreheads, and every day someone walks away healed. In the evenings, Jesus and his closest friends return once again into this upstairs room overlooking the rooftops of Jerusalem, sharing another meal. New people join them every night, and somehow there is always room at the table and food to share for everyone who comes into the room. Some, though, stand outside on the veranda, fascinated but wary, as they see and hear his radical hospitality. After all, Jesus is dining with tax collectors and sinners, and not just men are welcome at the table, but women too. And not everyone approves of this. Night after night, Jesus breaks all of the social and religious taboos of his time. And he doesn't care a hoot if his dinner guests are righteous or unrighteous, believers or non-believers, respectable or unrespectable. He blesses and serves everyone. And on this particular evening, the religious authorities from the temple are standing outside, and they grumble loud enough for Jesus to hear. "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them," one of them huffs. But rather than arguing, Jesus tells stories, lots of stories. He tells about a woman who cleans her house from floor to ceiling to find one lost coin. He tells about the shepherd who goes miles and miles to find lost sheep. He tells of God's extravagant economy. No coin is too small, no seed is insignificant, and no sheep is too lost that cannot be found. And of course, Jesus is talking about more than sheep and missing coins. He describes how God never gives up on creation or gives up on us, even when we give up on ourselves. Notice in this string of stories that Jesus connects everything to creation and each other. Coins, sheep, people. God's grace is filling all of it. And yet we know there are times we don't believe that. We don't sense that. We know there are times we succumb to our worst fears. Our fears might protect us, but our fears can corrode our connections to each other and our connections to all of creation. This is nothing new. Not in Jesus' time, not in our time. Jesus lived in a time of great tension around who is included in God's kingdom and who is not. The culture and the politics of his time were at war with itself, and feelings ran deep and raw. Sound familiar? A few days ago, I joined 30 other folks from our diocese of Northern California on a pilgrimage to Tule Lake in the far northeast corner of Northern California. For those unfamiliar with Tule Lake, it was the largest camp built to imprison Japanese Americans, most of them citizens, in World War II. More than 29,000 people were incarcerated at Tule Lake. Soon after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, ordering the relocation of all Japanese Americans on the West Coast. He did so over the objections, by the way, of his wife, Eleanor. The leaders of our country gave in to wartime fears and hysteria. And all told, 120,000 people were sent to 10 camps as far away as Arkansas. 17,000 of those imprisoned were children under the age of 10. No crimes were alleged against them. There were no court hearings. There was no due process of law. People were given 24 hours to pack what they could and leave, getting on buses and trains and going to the camps. Most of those forcibly incarcerated in the camps came from California. Thousands and thousands from right here in Sacramento. The Florin area of Sacramento was once a thriving Japanese farming community. No more. The Japanese neighborhood a few blocks west from here was emptied, and the Japanese Shinto Buddhist temple closed, taken over by the army. The two ministers, Geiyeo Hubariyashi and Sencho Sasaki, were sent to Tule Lake and not released until after the war. Our guide on our journey at Tule Lake, Steve, he was loaned to us from the California History Museum, and he told us a great deal about the history of the camps and camp life. Steve's grandfather was an Army veteran from World War I, but it didn't matter. He and the rest of his family were sent to Tule Lake. Families lived in drafty tar-papered barracks, one family per room in each barrack. Latrines were at the end of the block. Families ate in mess halls. The food was terrible. Medical care was minimal. We called our journey on Friday a pilgrimage because we went not as tourists looking for souvenirs, but in the hope that being at this place would crack open our hearts in a new way. Well, today, very little of the Tule Lake camp remains. We walked into the open desert and we stood on a concrete slab that had once been a latrine. And we took turns reading the names of the 313 people who died in the camp. Many, many were children. We went inside a concrete jail that still stands and heard how 100 men were jammed into this jail that was designed for 24. We touched the tar paper at one of the remaining barracks relocated in the town museum, and nearby was an old guard tower. Our experience was grim, and yet this was also a pilgrimage of hope. Our guide Steve said this on the bus as we left Tule Lake. This is not about guilt. You weren't part of the decision making. These stories are empowering, and you know something you didn't know before. You've learned more about the value of protecting people. And if we took that away, that was more than enough. Many in our group candidly commented about parallels with events today, and I leave you to draw your own conclusions. We ended our day gathering under a tree near a very small visitor center. The visitor center had been rebuilt from one of the old barracks. And we stood under the tree and we offered prayers of lament and prayers for life and hope, prayers for courage and reconciliation. For me, one prayer in particular tied everything together about the day. It tied everything together about the past, the present, the season of creation, and how new life can emerge from pain and injustice. And so I close with this prayer. God of all creation, in this hour of worship, help us to remember and learn from our past. Open our eyes and hearts to see our present through your eyes. Open our hearts to welcome your transforming Spirit, that our tomorrow can be all you hope for. Amen.